Oh hey, it's Emily, and it has been way too long since I've actually sat down to film, but we're going to take advantage of the motivation. We're going to film a couple of different things, starting with a recent reads from, or picking up from where I last left off in my latest recent reads video. For that one, I believe I covered Illuminate and Cosmos, and that was kind of in early June. So I'll take you through the rest of June and kind of cut it off there. And it's been a second since I've read these, again, since it has been way too long since I've sat down to film. It's early August at this point, so it's been a couple of months since I've read some of these, but bear with me and I will take you through my reading for the rest of June. So after those two books that I previously mentioned, I read Eliza and Her Monsters. I listened to this one on audio while physically reading it. There were some cool art elements throughout here that I wanted to also see while I was listening as well. And the audiobook was great. This follows Eliza, who is the creator of a very, very popular web comic series, and she has a very rich online life as a result. She also mostly has an online social life. She is very introverted. She also has a lot of social anxiety, which are two distinct things anyway, but she does have a lot of social anxiety and doesn't have a lot of friends, you know, at the high school that she goes to. A new student starts at school and she realizes that he is the creator of kind of the most popular fan fiction that's based on her series, but he does not realize that she's the creator of that series. And they kind of connect. She actually enjoys being around him. They strike up a friendship. It kind of turns into a little bit more. And the kind of crux of the story is kind of people finding out that she is the creator of the series. This is in the blurb, so I'm not spoiling something, and you can also probably guess that that's where this heads anyway, but it is in the blurb. So it's really her building up, or us seeing her in this online community that she's created, and really how important that is to her, and then seeing her world kind of crumble around her. I did really enjoy this. I enjoy the characters, the writing was really good. Overall, just had a fun time, an enjoyable time listening and reading this one. And there, like, it definitely has a lot of really good conversations, and I can definitely understand a lot of people, including myself, feeling seen if they are extremely introverted or have some social anxiety. I don't have a lot of social anxiety, but I am pretty introverted, and so there were definitely some things that I could relate to here. Definitely a lot of interesting conversations. I liked the art that was integrated throughout. I thought it was really cool, and just seeing her passion for her art and seeing the world that she's creating was really fun. It's a fantasy world, and so it was really cool to kind of get to see that world a little bit and explore that through Eliza's eyes. Very cool. There's only one thing towards the end that I didn't like. I'm not going to say much for spoilers, but I will just say that I feel like a character needed to apologize for something and recognize something that they didn't quite recognize and kind of didn't quite get there with their apology. Anyway, that's all I'll say. But I did really, really enjoy this one. And let's see, the next one, I tried to read Realmbreaker by Victoria Aveyard on audio. I'm going to come back to that one physically. I was actually enjoying the audiobook. The narrator I thought was really good, but I think this will be one that I either need to turn to and just take a little bit more time with and turn to physically, or maybe physically reading while listening to the audio will work. I'll come back to that one, so put a pin in that one for now. I'm very excited to go back to that one. I was definitely intrigued, but I just wasn't retaining some of the details that I wanted to be retaining by only listening to it on audio. So we'll come back to that one. And the next one that I finished was Acceptance by Jeff Vandermeer. This is the final book in the Southern Reach trilogy. I made reference to this in my mid-year book freakout tag, which I will link below in case you're curious. This one was not for me. I didn't particularly like this one. These books, I really enjoyed the first one, but this series just got more and more confusing as the series went on, and eventually I just, especially only reading it on like audibly, I was confused. It was not clicking. This follows a group of researchers who go into an area called Area X, and they believe there's environmental contamination, and they're trying to figure out what's going on with this area, and weird stuff is happening. Things kind of go from there. But the books just kept getting weirder and weirder, and a little too weird for my personal taste. The next book that I read was Shipped by Angie Hockman. This one was a pure delight from start to finish. I mentioned this one in that tag as a book that made me just happy. This one follows Graham and Henley. They both work for the same company. They work for a cruise line, and they work kind of in marketing at this cruise line, and there's a promotion at stake, and they're both competing for this promotion by coming up with a marketing package for a new cruise line that's going to the Galapagos. And so they actually go on this cruise to the Galapagos to kind of get ideas for their marketing package and their pitch, and they'll present their pitch at the end of after that cruise, and whoever is the best or has the best proposal will get the promotion. This one was a mixture of just so much fun while also having some really interesting conversations. So there are a few things kind of tied into this. So Henley, first of all, her sister comes to visit, and you find out throughout the book that her sister has been in an abusive or somewhat abusive relationship. So there are trigger warnings for that, just as a note. So there's stuff going on with her sister, who she brings along on this cruise as a way for them to reconnect and for her to kind of help her sister out. And Henley has definitely been very focused on her career. She loves what she does, and she wants this promotion and has worked incredibly hard for it. She doesn't have a good working relationship with Graham, and that's established at the beginning of the book. But you find out a few things once they actually meet on the cruise. They hit it off, they find out that there had been some misunderstandings, that kind of situation, and they end up falling for each other on this cruise while they're working on their pitch. There's also a huge conversation around conservation in this book, in this case particularly around conservation in the Galapagos, but of course the ideas are applicable in other areas as well. But I really enjoyed those conversations as well, and how that conversation was tied to this cruise, and some of the characters that were in here. This was just so much fun. I really loved this one. I thought the characters were fun. I thought the chemistry and the banter there was really fun. It was definitely, you felt like you were going on vacation to the Galapagos, which, amazing. And there's also huge conversations about whether or not women are taken as seriously as men in the workplace, which of course in some situations they are not, and there are a lot of conversations around that as well that I thought were really well done. I love this one. So the next book that I read was Inherit the Stars by James P. Hogan. I have the next one in this series, and I'm very excited to read it. This one follows the discovery of a skeleton that appears to be very similar to a human skeleton in almost every recognizable way. And it was found on the moon. But the question that comes up is, how did it get on the moon if it is 50,000, the skeleton is 50,000 years old? What happened? How did a human skeleton end up on the moon 50,000 years ago? And so it is this huge mystery about these scientists uncovering what's going on with the skeleton. And I thought this was super interesting. First of all, the science in here was super interesting. It is definitely pretty heavy on the science, which some people like in their science fiction. Some people maybe don't like if they enjoy some science fiction, but maybe don't want that. This is pretty heavy on the science. I really enjoyed these characters. I really enjoyed the pacing of this. I thought was done really well. I think it kept moving and kept you interested, and they kept uncovering new questions multiple questions for everyone that they answered. And I really just enjoyed the process of them asking these questions, doing these experiments, thinking things through, what kind of theory would fit the data that we have so far about what's going on. And you have a whole bunch of people working on this, you have a whole bunch of ideas and theories, and you see scientists debating the merits of various theories that they have and how well it does or doesn't fit the evidence. And it just was a lot of fun to follow. And I really feel like it was kind of realistic for what would happen and how people would react in this situation. It just felt somewhat realistic to me. And I just had a blast with this one. It was super fun, and I'm very excited to continue on in that series. So the next book that I read was A Concrete Rose by Angie Thomas, and I of course adored this because I love everything that Angie Thomas has written. And this one actually follows Star's dad. So Star is our main character in The Hate You Give, which was Angie's first novel. This follows her dad, and I loved it. I thought Maverick was a super interesting character in The Hate You Give, and I was very excited to explore his backstory. And this centers around the time where he finds out that he's going to be a father, and what happens after that, after he starts taking care of his kid and just learning how to grow up real fast. And this is just great. Like, it is just Angie's classic amazing writing style. She does character work and family dynamics so well. You really just fall for these characters. You get angry at them sometimes, you feel very sympathetic towards them sometimes, you just want to give them a hug sometimes, and I mean, you just feel everything that these characters are feeling, and you really get a sense for what their family is like, why they are the way they are, why they make these decisions, why they're reacting the way that they do to certain things. And it was just fabulous. It was just wonderful, and I absolutely loved it. The final book that I'm going to talk about, I did read 2 other books, but they are going to be featured in vlogs that I have not yet finished filming. I put a pause on the vlog that the next 2 books I read were associated with. So we're just going to go to the last book that I read in June, which was Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir. I actually finished this super early in July, but Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir, this again was an absolute delight. I guess I was just in a sci-fi mood, and I was so excited to pick this up. And this one follows Ryland Grace, who wakes up in space, has no idea what's going on. His 2 crewmates are dead. He doesn't know why he's in space. He doesn't know why he was sent there, how he got there. And very slowly memories are starting to come back to him, but it's the mystery of him finding out why he is in space and figuring out the mission that he was on and how he ended up on this mission, and then going to do his best to actually do that mission that was critical to saving life on Earth. And so he needs to remember what he was doing, why it was important for Earth, and what was going on, and go from there. And it was an absolute delight. Ryland was so much fun to follow. I thought this book was it's a survival story, but just like The Martian, I feel like if you enjoyed The Martian, you will really enjoy this one as well. Slightly different characters, but still relatively similar senses of humor. And it feels very lighthearted, even though it is a survival story. It's just so much fun. It is so fun. It is so entertaining. There's definitely a lot of science in here, but I don't feel like it gets bogged down with the science. Even if there's a little bit that goes over your head, it doesn't at all prevent you from really still being into the story. But if you do appreciate that, there's still plenty there of hard science for you to appreciate. So I feel like it caters to both audiences in a way that is very difficult to do. And the characters were super interesting, not just Ryland, but as his memories are coming back, you're also flashing back to his life on Earth and this problem that he's trying to solve starting, and just his life on Earth as Earth was trying to come to grips with what was going on. Super interesting. Those characters were also super interesting. I really liked both the present day of Ryland on the ship and the flashbacks. I enjoyed both of those equally. And Yeah, so it's not in the synopsis, so I'm not going to say too much about another element that I really, really loved in this book, but there's an entire other added component to this story, and we're introduced to someone, is all I'll say. And I really, really love the direction that that took, and I love that element. Again, I'm not going to say much, but if you have read it, you know what I'm talking about. And I had such a fun time with this one. So there was what I've read throughout the rest of June. A good chunk of what I've read in July are for vlogs, so I probably won't do another recent reads until after some of these vlogs are posted. So it'll be a moment before I post another one, but that is me getting caught up through the end of June and early July. And thank you so much for watching. If you have read any of these books or are interested in them, let me know your thoughts. And of course, be sure to subscribe for more bookish content. I will be sure to leave my Twitter and Instagram linked down below. That's where I like to hang out. And I will of course leave more resources for how you can support the Black Lives Matter movement. And I will see you in the next one. Bye.